Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I've just got off the phone with a new contact. His name is Gordon Jameson. I don't need code names for this one. He's quite happy for his name to go out there. Gordon is an engineer, been an engineer for 51 years. He's retired now. Highly qualified, highly experienced, a man in whom you can trust when he speaks about his subject being, of course, engineering. Now, we're going to talk specifically about the air conditioning in the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, if you remember from previous conversations we had with Lesley Roberts, aka Merlin, she talked about the fact that the hospital was put into special measures over many different things, but one of them being the substantial rise in deaths of children. And there's been other problems there. We had Andrew Slorence lost his life due to an infection, aspergillus, at the hospital, and then there's been other issues as well. We'll address them. So there's all sorts of terrible things happening within this hospital, and Lesley's been bringing this up as part of what her package of stuff that she's bringing forward to the channel to push out there so that people are aware. Now, Gordon is saying that the big problem here is actually money saving. It's scrimping, it's penny pinching during the construction phase of the hospital, and he's going to talk us through what happened and why this is so dangerous and the reasons why it's dangerous. So he is a remarkable man. I've got to say, I was on the phone for an hour. If it was 2 hours, it wouldn't have been long enough. But I mean, I have to get on. I had things to do. Fantastic guy, Gordon. If you're watching this, thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And some of the stories were fantastic, let me say. But I have to edit it down. So I'm just going to edit it down to the relevant, pertinent parts for the subject matter of this video. But yeah, I've got to say, he's a fantastic guy. Anyway, thank you very much for that, Gordon. We're going to go in now, straight in. We're going to have a look at this, basically what Gordon said. Listen to it because it's a phone call. There's a couple of bits where the phone goes a bit crinkly, I suppose, but can't help that. So do try and stick with that. It does clear up. It goes away again. So stick with it. You should be able to pick up just about everything that you need from it to make your own mind up as to whether this is pertinent to what Lesley was saying. Anyway, right. Your name is Gordon Jackson.
I did some plenty of pipe work relating to the job. I did some air conditioning units for them. Because I do building services. I'm a chartered engineer. I've been for 51 years now.
So Gordon, you're a chartered engineer.
Yes.
Long-standing, experienced, knowledgeable, qualified. So you're speaking from what you know.
Yes.
Now, you've been put in contact with me by Lesley because you were involved with the construction of the hospital.
I was involved in bits of it on the air conditioning side.
On the air conditioning. And which hospital is this? This is the QE2. The Queen Elizabeth University.
Yes, we know it's Death Star.
Yeah. So you were doing the AC, the air conditioning in that.
I was involved in that, yes. And my friend Alan, my colleague Alan, he was involved. He was in and he asked them the problems were in the laboratory. He said, you've got to change into this. He said, what was the rest of the building? He said, they warned them. And they used the cheapest, it's a Chinese thin-walled cadmium pipe, I believe, they've got installed there.
So the cheapest that they could get away with, basically, in the construction. Yeah.
Consultant who used to look after the job never got the contract, and he would never use anything to steal or copper in the job to ensure that there was no leakage, no contamination, which is standard practice. The laboratories where Alan was involved, they put in plastic piping. A company called George Fisher, who are pretty well world renowned, they supply. He got a team together that put it in. He previously worked on a company, I don't know if you ever SES
So with the cadmium, this cadmium pipe then has problems. What sort of problems would you get with them?
What happens is it starts corroding from the inside out, and the water getting through it, and the stuff that comes off the pipe floats through the water and is carcinogenic.
Right. So you're going into a hospital, and you're putting in material that will rot effectively, that will oxidize and whatever, and then the byproduct of that breakdown is a carcinogenic compound. In a hospital, and they knew this in advance, that this material is carcinogenic.
They would have known that because I know it.
But in order to save a shilling, they put this in.
Yes, exactly. And if you go and get the Belfast City Hospital court case, that's what that was all about. Same thing. And the company who did it, they tried to do it the cheap, but this stuff starts corroding. And before too long, it's leaking. They also put it into a school up in Aberdeen, and my friend John was working the job. He's a chartered engineer as well. He is actually running oil rigs now. He was in the building and he did all the electrical work. And when he did finish the electrical work, the clerk of work from the Grampian Council came in and said, "Hold on a minute, what's this piping in here? Well, this is what we bid for." He said, "I told you you couldn't use it. Get it out." I mean, the building's been handed over tomorrow. No, it's not. Get it out. Cost them well over £50,000 to go in and get rid of it. The pipe work, change it. Because he said, "We've had this at schools before and it's not allowed. Get it out." But we bid for it. Aye, you might have bid for it. You're not putting it in here. So that was John said, all his electrical stuff had to come out to get to the piping to get it out. Then the building was handed over, and the mechanical engineer who used the pipe work, he left on depression.
So the engineer that stated all this, he actually left and suffering from depression over it.
Because he got ahead and done it after being told not to use it, but he's told he's got to meet the budget. And if you don't meet the budget, you're in trouble. So he had to put that piping in, and that building is still there as well. It's up the Grampian area. And it's one of these things that they save money, they go in, they try to... I used to be deeply involved in ventilation with grills and diffusers. And I worked for a company called Trogs, a German company, for 20 odd years. I was the manager for Scotland. And we used to get specified with a consultant. You would go to site, as I did, into the big shopping centre in Dundee. And I walked in and I looked around the building, went into the site hub for the meeting, sat down and said, "Right, can I say something before you start, Mr. Jefferson? You sit there and we will get to you." So I sat and talked for half an hour. I just started playing a snake thing on my phone. Bang. And when they came to, "Right, Mr. Jefferson, we'll talk to you now," I said, "Well, had we walked down the building as I came in, I looked at all the diffusers that were supplied and installed. They're not mine. Ours are specified, but they are not mine. Because every one we supply, the damper on it is painted black. You look up, you don't see anything. And this one, they're all aluminium, and you can see them. They're not ours. So cheerio." And that's what happens, and people do it to save money.
Saving the money, yeah. And it's literally risking people's lives, putting lives on the line to save a few pennies.
Yes. And that is what we believe happened in that job. I can't prove 100%, but based upon knowing the facts and knowing what to do, and why would it test a system with air? All the water tanks were empty. They'd never been cleaned. The day they turned it on, the tanks were all empty. They started filling them, and they were filthy. But these pipe works, so now the contractors now disappear, and 9 months after handing the building over, usually the pipes are gone, the water's coming out, causing all sorts of problems, and the contamination is there. So
the contamination. Now I know about the aspergillus there. There's an awful lot of that. That would have been exacerbated by the problems with the AC ducting then, or the moisture, and of course because they didn't clean them properly first. That's probably where the original source of it was then. So this is a source that's gone in. This aspergillus source went in during construction, and they didn't clean the pipes. They specified the wrong materials. They didn't do the job properly, and they switched it on before they'd filled all the tanks.
Yeah.
And of course, now you're getting people falling seriously ill and possibly dying because of the aspergillus.
Yeah. And then I was going to point out that I believe that the pigeon droppies cause problems in other parts. That's quite normal. They put the ceilings up, and the pigeons are sitting there, and they lock them in. Then the air returns, because we do the ventilation system. Sometimes it returns through the ceiling void back into the air hand, to do a cycle like that. But that's where it pick up pigeon droppings, because they're actually, I've seen them do it, where you open up the ceiling, there's pigeons, and take it in there.
Yeah. And of course, the pigeon droppings themselves, they dry, they turn to dust, and of course, there's so many diseases in bird droppings.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They're all part of the same problem. It's not done properly. Now, I've done the biggest jobs in Scotland, at Drawback of Scotland, Gogoburn, £400 million project. My order was £4 million, and there was no profit. Job coming in budget on time, and the extra attenuation they put in Sir Freddie Goodman's office to make sure they didn't hear swearing, it worked very well, I believe. But I've done, you wouldn't believe the jobs I've done. I used to do all the silicon chip factories over here.
Sorry, you did all the what, sorry?
Silicon chip factories.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I remember, yeah, when they had the old Silicon Glen back in the sort of 80s, 90s.
And
Yeah.
I was supplying HEPA filter. Now, HEPA filter ensures that there's 100% clean air.
Yes.
And we used to supply these, the Germans made them. I would supply the quick gop, and I could actually pressure test it to ensure that the air was going through the filter, not bypassing through the seal.
Yeah.
So we could, the thing we tested with high pressure. Not only do you design it for the consultant, you turn up the site, you tell the contractor what he needs to do, and then you show them. I did this, can I say this? I did the Scottish Parliament. Anybody hear me now? Do you know who I worked with in there?
Yeah.
A lady called, what's her name? I got her name called, I had it made for a second. Bernadette.
Bernadette, yeah.
Her husband was the architect who died, and she took over the project. And I was in meeting her, getting her, sorting out stuff that was specified, showing her, telling her what would go wrong if they didn't do it. And I got in.
Yeah, I suspect that the Scottish Parliament had all the very best stuff.
Well, it didn't, but I went into one part of the building. There was a building that's built onto, it's an older building, and under the floor was my things called VAV boxes, variable air volume, which are controlled by pressure, air, and you also require an electric actuator in there to drive them to open and close positions and stuff. And I went in and they weren't working, so they're under the floor, so they lifted the floorboards, and after we looked round, I said, see these here, they've never been tested. How do you mean they've never been tested? Well, that's broken, it can never be tested. It was under the floor, people stood on it before the floor went in. And what they have in the air system is this wee plastic connection to the break off. So what I would do out to my car, throw it in a bag of plastic bits in, fix them all for them personally, went round them all, there was 10 of them there, and there's maybe about 30 plastic things, and I can't remember how many there were per unit, but I did all that. Then I brought my kit in, which you plug into each box, and then I showed them how to set up. I did one, and I left my box with them, and they did the rest themselves, and I picked up at the end of the week. So there's things that go wrong.
Oh, yeah, I mean, listen, I've worked in construction. I'm an accountant, but I've worked as an accountant for a construction company for, far longer than I ever want to think about, to be honest. And I know in construction, we always built a contingency into our costs, because we know things get stolen, things get broken, things get delivered and they aren't the right things, and so you got to account for costs left, right, and centre for all these things. And so I've seen some weird stuff get broken. You're thinking, how on earth have they broken that? But it happens. But the point is, you have your surveyor and you have your health and safety guy and all that. These people go around and they double check and triple check to make sure everything is good, everything is fine, everything is tested, everything has got the appropriate certificates, and then you hand over the houses. No house goes out that it hasn't been fully tested.
Yeah, I know. So I'm saying the testing of water system with air, right away that gives you a worry, doesn't it?
Yes, if you're testing it with air, yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
Because eventually you've got to rip everything out again and fix it. So they've escaped before they're found out. That's part of the problem. And that's why I would say it's definitely that is the pipe they use, because we know they use that in the industry. And it causes problems. I tried to get Alan to get the information from our side. He was speaking to the guy who probably organised his official stuff, which he supplied and sold, and that was put into the laboratory area, which you can imagine they don't want any problems at all, and it's clean. They've got hot, cold, all different types of water systems, and when they seal the plastic pipes, it's a different type glue every time, either a hot glue or a cold glue, you know, to make sure it never ever leaks. So that's all done perfectly, and there's never problems in there.
Yeah. So that's liquid tested. It's not air tested.
What's liquid tested?
Yeah.
Well, why would they do the rest of the system without water in it? So right away I was suspicious, and I was saying, you're right, Gordon, that's what they use again in there, these thin wall cadmium pipes, because as I say, you have to go and do the schools and fix them, or it would have ruined the FES's reputation if that had come out.
Yeah, and that's why they don't. Yeah, but that's why they don't do the water testing, because of the cadmium in the pipes.
They called the schools the ticking time bomb.
And now are these pipes still in these schools?
You know, they come out of the schools.
Oh, they have come out of the schools, right?
They came out of the time
Yeah.
after a team in, and they went round and they had a team set up, and they placed all the piping, and they placed it with the Fisher piping, which is a plastic pipe.
Yeah, but
Sure it's 100%. So it's
but
no
they
problem.
haven't done that yet in the Queen Elizabeth.
I don't know what they've done in the Queen Elizabeth now, but I know that was the main problem.
That was the main problem. Yeah.
And that's why they've had that problem. And you start to see children dying in this carcinogenic stuff. And you start to wonder what's going on in there. And I'm just a simple engineer, I tell people, but I'm not stupid. And I also did the Healthcare International, you know that one, which is now the Golden Jubilee.
Mhm.
I did Edinburgh Royal Infirmary, no problem. I did all the smoke fire dampers there as well. Did the Wishy, which is Wishaw General Hospital. I did the new Victoria in Glasgow, and I did the new
So you've done a lot of them, so you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly what you're talking about.
Aye, well, I mean, I was in there. I mean, 51 years as a chartered engineer. I was in the industry. I started with John Brown Engineering, right behind as a graduate apprentice, testing gas turbines, which was great.
Yeah.
One, very interesting. I've worked with chief engineers that sailed at sea, so how much you learn from these guys.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I appreciate, because when you're sitting at the knees of giants, you learn a lot, don't you?
Aye, yes. And that's what I've been in the industry, right? I'm retired. I'm 75 now.
Mhm.
And I retired at 70. I thought that's a good long run. Might as well give up now.
Yeah.
I was talking about it. He says, Gordon, you know exactly what you're talking about. You're saying the right things. And he came in one day and gave me this George Fisher booklet, which shows me all the plastic piping, and it's so much more, you know, than just the thin wall cadmium pipe, which is pretty small.
Yeah.
It's nothing. People will ignore it, not think about it, but the problem is built in, and as the FES guy, the managing director, Alice Powell, said, it's a ticking time bomb. If
Yeah.
this computer reputation is going to be ruined. And as far as I believe, this is what happens. They go to the Sullivan Victoria, the Victoria Queen Elizabeth Hospital, whatever you call it. I know it's the Sullivan General, or as they call it in Glasgow, it's Death Star. If you look at the shape of it, it's a big star.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when people die, and it's Death Star getting typical.
The Death Star, because of, and this is basically down to the sort of the intrinsic construction, because this is what they've put in on, you know, as part of First Fix, I'd imagine, wouldn't it?
Well, if the contractor can get away with it, you'll bring in Chinese diffusers, stuff that's going to rot pretty early, things that break early, that they'll go around it. And they do it all the time, different projects. And I always try to design something into it that nobody else made, so they had to stick with us. And
Yeah.
We weren't always the cheapest, but we were the best.
That's it, and especially in something like a hospital, when you're talking about people's health and indeed their lives, the last thing you want is anything that's cheap and dangerous. Okay, listen, Gordon, I really got to go. So Gordon,
Brilliant.
it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. You give me some great information. Like I say, I've got your link there, and we will speak again soon, hopefully.
Good. And if you need any help, anything, give me a shout. I'll do my best to help.
You're very kind. All right, thanks very much, and goodbye.
Great.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Right, so obviously I've trimmed out a lot of that conversation. It was over an hour, and I had to take a bit out in the middle and whatever. So I just sort of did the pertinent bit at the front, then the rounding off. Now, if you could understand that, what he was saying is that there was three issues at the construction stage of building this hospital's AC. They specified that it should be either aluminium or copper, or at a push plastic. They didn't, and they went with this cheap stuff from China that was cadmium coated, so it looks nice and shiny and that. And it should be pushed and tested and water tested, and it came out that it wasn't water tested, and that rang an alarm bell with him, and he knew straight away that there was only one reason you wouldn't water test it, and that is because of being cadmium, and the cadmium corrodes. Now the problem with corroded cadmium is it's carcinogenic, and it will cause cancers. And then we have this strange rise in deaths at the hospital, particularly children, because obviously it's leaking. It's not a very good system. The water gets in. Then, of course, you've got all this carcinogenic leakage there. Also, before they installed it, they didn't clean the system entirely through, which is what you should do. And they did actually say, and they said to the SNP, they said to the health minister at the time, they need to do this. And there was, if you give them the money, we can do it. They didn't get the money, they didn't do it. And so they were sealing this unit in, and it was dirty, and they had all sorts of problems with it. And that's when the fungus got in. And of course, people have died as a result of the fungal infections that they knew about and that they were told about in advance, because they've gone and done the wrong AC. They haven't built it to what was specified by the design engineers. They also, of course, had a problem with pigeons, and I mentioned it in there because the pigeons got into the system. There was pigeon crap everywhere. It's dried. It gets blown through the AC ducting. It comes out into the air in a very, very tiny dust form, and it's almost like anthrax. It's incredibly dangerous. It carries so many diseases, and they have this tiny, tiny dust-like particles, and they get breathed in, and they're in, and you get also psittacosis, for example, one of the things you get. So this whole design, it was the wrong materials. The materials they used, not only were they not to the one specified, but they went out to get deliberately the cheapest one, which is coated in cadmium, which is incredibly dangerous, cancer forming. You then didn't clean the system. I mean, apart from the problem with the aspergillus because of the lack of clean system, this is also a potential risk for Legionella. What's the hospital? Paisley, is it? Paisley's got to close a couple of wards because of Legionnaire's disease. And this is what happens when you don't flush these systems. Now, I'd imagine this system has got a flush system that will push through and clean it. But of course, that means putting hot water through systems and things like that. But you can't do that in a cadmium-based ducting system. So everything there went wrong. They didn't clean out the pigeons. They didn't clean the ducts. There is problems left, right and centre, and all to save a buck. And the thing is, the SNP were warned in advance. And then what happens? Children die. There's a high rate of cancer. Patients die of fungal infections that could have been stopped. All of these things they knew about in advance, and yet nothing was done. Now, whether the ducting was responsible for any of these things, there is no direct causality. You cannot say that dirty ducting, which they'd warned them about the aspergillus in prior to the hospital opening, was the same aspergillus as was, infected the patient sitting in the ward, where the AC is. You can't do that direct thing. But it's highly suspect, I think you'll agree. And you can't say that the child deaths of cancer are in any way related to the fact that the children were in these wards with the air coming out of the AC, the air with the rotting, decomposing cadmium that would then be coming out in particulate form and breathed in and cause cadmium-based cancers. You can't say that that's the direct cause. But again, it's highly suspicious. So whatever the causes of this is, I'll let you, dear viewer, decide. But I want to thank Gordon for coming on and highlighting these issues. And it just goes to show that people are now starting to talk. People are not afraid to talk. The truth will come out. And if anyone else has anything they want to get rid of and highlight, I will certainly talk to them and I will push this out. And if you want to talk on the record or off the record, please contact me. We will talk and I will highlight your case. But I think you can see that once again, Lesley Merlin, as we call her, Lesley Roberts, is again highlighting an issue which is a real and present danger to people that the SNP, and particularly the health secretaries over the years, knew about and yet strangely did nothing. You have to ask why. And I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and if you are ill, don't go to the QEUH. Go elsewhere.